Hi all, welcome to my channel again. So today we are going to discuss deep about the Docker, and in this session I'm going to explain you all about what is the Docker Compose, what is a YAML file, and some task which will explain you or give you more knowledge about how Docker works. When we are working, how Docker will get used in the projects. Everything we are going to discuss in this session, so please watch until the end. And also, if you want to check out this blog, you can check this link in the description box. From that, you can access this blog. And let's start. Docker Compose. So, Docker Compose is a multi-container service that is used to spin up many containers at a time. So with the Docker Compose, we can start, stop, and rebuild services, can check the status of the services, and can run an on-off command. So all of these commands can be executed for the multiple containers. So that's why it is called a multi-container service. To write a Docker Compose file, we use the YAML language since it is user-friendly. So since the Docker Compose, you might have got a better idea in the last video, which I have explained detailedly about it. So let's move on further. AML stands for at another markup language, so it is human readable language and it is used to write configuration files. And also, it is recommended that configuration files should be written in AML rather than JSON. So since they can be used interchangeably in most of the cases, but AML is better in case of readability and is also more user friendly. So YAML is used in DevOps tools like Ansible and Kubernetes also along with the Docker. So it is very easy and more user friendly. So let's discuss the task now. Um, the task is that learn how to use the Docker Compose.yaml to set up the environment. .yml is the YAML extension. Configure the services and link between different containers and also to use different variables in the Docker Compose YAML file. So for this task, first we are installing Docker Compose on the system. For that, we use this command to install the Docker on the system. So when we use this command, Docker Compose gets installed on the system, then pull the source code from the Git repo and create the image. For creating the image, we use uh, the, after pulling the code from the GitHub that will be in our present working directory. So there you can use this Docker build dot, which is the present working directory, and the tag for the image is this. So which will create a image with this name. So when you give ls there, you can see this image. So if you go inside it, then you can when you try to create a Docker Compose YAML and try to run this, then you will get error since we haven't created the Docker Compose YAML yet. Then for creating the Docker Compose YAML file and include we must include all the containers that we want to run with its images. So for this is the sample Docker Compose file where one web image, 1 DB image is being used and ports are this which are exposed to the external and can be accessed through the external world. So and the environment is nothing but simply a passing data and the services will be having the container details which will be running. So this is the web one, this is the DB one. So there are two containers which will get created when we run this Docker Compose, and this is the version. The same is explained here. So 3.3 is the version, and Services contain the number of containers or applications that user want to run, same as I have explained. And ports refer to the particular application being exposed to the external URL. So for that purpose, ports are used. And the environment passes the credentials or data to the container. So run the docker compose YAML file. When we give sudo docker compose up, then whatever the images present inside the docker compose YAML will get executed. A container will get created for each image which is present inside the docker compose YAML. So if you see here we have run the docker compose up. Then two containers got created with the DB. One is web. So now the containers are up. Now we can monitor through the web URL. And after this completion, we can use the below command to make the Docker containers down. So this what it will do? It will make the Docker compose Docker containers down. So after running this command, if you run the docker ps, then you can see nothing is running, no container is running. And the next task is to pull a pre-existing docker image from a public repository, example Docker Hub, which is a public repository, and run it on your local machine. So run the container as a non-root user, means Docker will be the user. So when we are running the Docker commands, no need of using the sudo. So for that purpose, we can use the user mode to change the permission for the Docker and make sure you reboot instance after giving permission to user. Okay. So for this task to perform, first let's change the permissions to the Docker. So this command to execute permission to provide Docker execute permission to non-admin user. Okay. So you can check now all Docker commands can be executed without the prefix sudo. As I said, after you modify the permissions for this Docker user, then we can just simply run the Docker instead of giving the sudo. So here we are pulling the Docker image. So once image is available on the system, then we are running that so that a container will get created. And then when we want to know about the image details, we simply give the docker inspect, which will give us the containers running processes and the exposure ports using the docker inspect command. Everything we will get when we run the inspect command. This is the syntax docker inspect image name. And next is to check the logs of the containers, we use docker logs container id, which will fetch the logs for that container. Next is use the docker stop and docker start command to start and stop the containers. So docker stop container id will stop the container, and the start will this will start the container which is having this image container id. So here the same is shown in the screenshot. This is stopping this container. Then when we check, it is not running. Then same when you give docker start, then it is started running. So use the docker rm command to remove the docker when you are done. So when you are done with everything, you can just simply remove the container using the container id and this command docker rm container id, which will remove the docker container as shown in the screenshot. So yeah, that's all for today. Thanks for watching the video until the end, and if you want to check out this blog, you can check this link from the description box. Thank you.